I think we're live. Lavada Leaning, how are you?
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for putting the pronunciation guide to your last name on your Facebook page.
Thank you
I,
so much for reading it and then
of
pronouncing
course,
it
of
properly.
course. It is very important to me. Actually, in my spare time, I'm a substitute teacher, so pronouncing people's names correctly is like a thing it's like a thing I do. Um, I want to thank you for coming on to my podcast. You are in Minnesota?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. To California people, all of those states right up there by the lakes, it's just lakeland. But
California, my peeps, you guys. You're going to have to pull through for Bernie for me. Personal
we're
favor, calling in right now, California. Make it happen.
trying so much. I'm really excited. Over the last couple days, I've been reposting things like making sure, like the California voter registration check link, because it's so important. Just last night, I heard it's some number like 300,000 people are registered independents, not knowing that in California it's closed primary, semi-closed primary, and if you selected independent thinking that that meant unaffiliated or no party preference, you're a registered independent party member. And so 300,000 people mistakenly registered as independents instead of correctly selecting. So it's a huge problem out here, and I'm hoping that we can do something for you. You are a huge Bernie supporter. Tell me how it felt leading up to. Now, I'll just let you know, as a Californian, politicians never come here. We never get political ads. It's like a state that everybody assumes is blue, and so they never come to try and court us. How's it different for you?
Well, Wisconsin's sort of known as a swing state. So we do get politicians coming here. We have Scott Walker for our governor, and he's a big fat turd. So that sucks for us. He's always screwing up my stuff, but hey, it gives me lots of stuff to be an activist for. So I guess that's a good thing. It's fun. It was actually really fun. I went to one of the Bernie rallies here up in Madison. One of the smaller ones he had one a few blocks away from my house here, like a week after I went to the one in Madison, but I wouldn't have been able to get into that one because it filled up and it had an overflow crowd, and I wouldn't have even been able to get into that one. So I'm glad that I went to the one in Madison. It's amazing to be able to be part of this thing that's happening, this revolution that's happening. I don't know if how far back in my timeline on Facebook that you went, but if you go back 3, 4, 5 years, you will see me talking about the revolution and see me talking about how Republican and Democrat are two heads of the same snake, two sides of the same coin, that they're both bought and paid for by the same people. And when I first started saying that, I almost didn't even believe it myself, because I had come out of a sleep where I believed that the government was of the people, by the people, and for the people, and that they would never hurt their own citizens. I genuinely believed that. I was in the military for a while when I was younger. I joined while I was still in high school. And so I had sort of a patriotic feeling about the government, and I didn't want to believe that they were capable of the things that I know now that they're fully capable of.
Right.
So when I came out of that sleep and I started learning things, and this was just a few years back, I was like, I don't want to be part of that. And I am a registered independent voter. And when I registered as an independent voter, I meant it as an unaffiliated voter, not really understanding the independent party is its own thing.
Right.
But it doesn't matter in Wisconsin because we have open primaries, and you know, it wouldn't have mattered anyway here. But I can see how other people could be confused, because I think I was sort
confusing.
of under the same misconception. But yeah, I'm highly suspicious of this two-party system that we have. And some of the things that Bernie talks about are things that I've been talking about for years. And when I started talking about them, I felt like a conspiracy theorist. I felt like I was so fringe and so outside of everybody else that I knew, even my own previous self. And but I'm also the kind of person that I call it like I see it. And it was more and more and more obvious. I feel like it's quite brave of Bernie and the rest of the Bernie-crats that are coming out to be standing up against this political system, but we will have your back. We will have your back. Do not worry. The two-party system will fall. And when it falls, what will take its place will be something of the people, by the people, and for the people. Don't be afraid of these Republicans and Democrats and how much power they have, because they only have that power because we gave it to them. And we can take it away.
You know, I think a lot of people walk around with the sometimes not even the best, but a mediocre version of high school civics in their minds about how how the government should work. I mean, that's the last time they thought about it. That's the last time they looked into it. And, when I take a look at the cause of real power, how people amass power, how people bring things together, like if I were to take Hillary Clinton, for example, there are things like election fraud and Bill, showing up to the polls when he's not supposed to be there. And what keeps them from being arrested or called is the actual use of power, right? It's influence. It's having a precedent on your side. And when it comes down to it, I think those sorts of things, that momentum and well, you can't really say that to them because they're in control. I mean, we're as humans, we're so apt to defer to figures of authority, people we assume have power, and that assumption, that presumption of power, I think is far more a factor in how power is maintained, and not, well, here it is, the letter of the law, we need to follow it. And, I think that there's just so much more to power and authority that we don't, we don't recognize it in our everyday life. And our language doesn't have a way of adequately expressing how people get into leadership positions and maintain their control over people. I think it's something, and it's nice. The one thing I've appreciated about Bernie Sanders' campaign is the stuff he says. Like you said, it does sound a little, nutty when he talks about the millionaires and billionaires who buy election. That's not something that most people can even conceive of. And yet,
but it's totally true.
Yeah. One thing that we
don't want to believe it. I think that's one of the hurdles that people have to get over. Just not wanting to believe that something so far out of whack can be true. But, it's clear and obvious. All you have to do is really think about it and really look at the way that things have happened in the last 20 or 30 years. See, this isn't the world that people grew up watching on TV. This is not the Huxtables. This is not Mayberry. The police, it's not like the people complain and then the mayor jumps on the police chief and the police chief whips his police officers into shape. That's not what happens. Right. What happens is the politicians do what the corporations tell them to do. The corporations tell the mayor what to do. The mayor then tells the police chief what the corporation said to do. And then the police end up defending the corporation's interests, not the people's interests. And that's why you see 1,500 people getting arrested at Democracy Spring at the state capitol, instead of the police turning around and storming the Capitol with the people, which is what should happen, because the taxpayers are who's really paying the salary of those police officers. And we are united. We are the people. We are the 99%. Right. But because we are living in this collective sleep, but that more and more people are waking up out of every single day, thank goodness. But until this is part of the revolution. You see, what happens in movements is the very first people that come out in a movement are people who are traditionally kind of outsiders. They're a little bit strange, not very popular, not social, not community oriented. They kind of go to the beat of their own drum.
Right.
They're just unusual people, but they knock down barriers. They take that first step. They take those first hits, and they are usually the ones that get called extreme or weird or fringe or not important or whatever.
Right.
And then the next wave of people are a little bit more social, a little bit more community oriented, a little bit better organized. And then the people after them that come out are the family oriented people, the people who say, you know what, this is important because it's affecting my family, not just me. It's me and my family. And then the next wave of people are the people who come out and say, yeah, this not only affects me, but it affects me and my family and my friends. And those people are my allies. Those people are us. And the next thing you know, you have a movement on your hands, and it's a real thing. And we are right there. That's where this movement is. This movement has already had the weird, kind of outside of the box thinkers who nobody listened to for the last 40 years with their
and that's who Bernie is.
Hair. That's Bernie. And who everybody just discounted out of hand. And we have had the some of his supporters coming out, and then we had those supporters and their family and friends, and now millions of allies, millions of people, the people who Bernie has been standing up for the last 40 years are beginning to stand up for Bernie. This revolution is happening. And even if Bernie dropped dead tomorrow because he was assassinated or because he lost for whatever reason, if Bernie left the revolution right now, this revolution will still continue. It's not about Bernie. It's about these ideas that Bernie has been trying to tell us for the last 40 years. And yeah, I got on board 5 years ago. And some people got on board yesterday, but it doesn't matter because this is happening, and it's happening because it's real and it needs to happen. I believe in this movement. I believe in Bernie. This is not a popularity contest. This isn't about Republicans and Democrats. This is about taking back the government from a corrupt gang of corporations. This is about ending Citizens United. This is about making the government reflect the needs of the people the way that it's supposed to. That's what it's about.
Now, let me take you on a sort of a journey of hypotheticals here. The next couple states goes, California, we let everybody down, which I don't want to happen, but if it does, Bernie is out of the nomination process by the numbers. Right?
Okay, this is great. I love this. This is strategy talk.
Let's think through this. Bernie is out of the nomination by the numbers. There's no way that he can get the super delegates to switch and to get him. Hillary's just got a majority of the
Democrat delegates. Party is not for Bernie in this case.
Right. So what is the next
step? That can happen. All right. So let's not think about the Democrats for a second. Let's think about the Republicans, because what happens on the Democrat side is dependent on what happens over there. Now, I don't know how closely you're following what's going on in the Republican Party, but there's a bit of a split happening there too.
Oh, of course.
The popular vote is going towards Trump, and Trump is a joke. Trump is not a Republican. Trump does not reflect. I mean, he sort of is trying to parrot some of the platform of the Republican Party, but we all know he does not mean it. We all know that he is an ex-liberal. We all know that when it comes right down to it, the only thing that is really interesting to Trump is Trump.
Absolutely.
Trump wants to be the president. Trump wants to run the world. He doesn't really give a fucking shit about anything that the Conservative Party stands for.
Right.
Now, what conservatism does stand for is, slow change, uh, Christian sort of values, fiscal conservatism. They also are kind of stuck in the very non-liberal sort of social place where they, are not where we need to be as far as gay rights and things like that.
Yeah, understood.
So, but they have Cruz, who's also a puppet, and is an establishment puppet, and he is good to go to do exactly what the Koch brothers tell him to do, and whoever else. So,
Right.
the establishment wants Cruz. They don't want Trump. And they can rig the rules and they can screw him out of it. And
Right.
if they are able to do that without the populace that supports Trump rioting, they're
Right.
going to do that. But right now, what Trump is threatening to do is to drop out of the Republican Party and to punish the Republican Party for the way they're treating him, is to take all of his voters with him and run as an independent.
You think that he's going to run as independent?
Okay, this is just a scenario.
Okay.
I think it's possible if the Republican Party doesn't go ahead and get behind him.
Right.
If they don't get behind him when he has the popular vote, because he is killing it. I know. Killing it.
I have a different theory, but go ahead with that.
So say he splits the Republican Party and takes his voters, and there's two people on that side and Hillary, okay? Best case scenario is that Sanders runs as an independent, and they have this split 4 ways. Now, 2 things can happen. Sanders can and will run away with it, because Sanders will pull half the Dems, all of the independents, which the independent bloc is bigger than the Republicans and the Democrats, and he'll pull some of the Republicans.
Let's be clear, not independents, unaffiliateds.
In your state, but what I'm talking about, independents, I'm talking about the bloc.
Yeah, what I'm saying, that's independent, little I, independent, not independents. Again, for our California, we're trying to be specific. So we're talking about the middle road voters that are neither party.
All right, so for the sake of this conversation, we can assume that I mean anybody but a Republican and a Democrat when I say independent.
Right. Independent, little I.
In real life, like not in real life, but in the, like, if you're talking about the 3 blocks of Republican, Democrat, and independent is the biggest.
Yeah.
So Bernie will have all of them, half the Dems, and probably 15%, maybe 10% of the Republicans. So he can pull all of that. He will get all the delegates. He will run away with the presidency if it's a 4-way split. Easy peasy. Now, there's a small problem with that. Bernie previously said that he wasn't going to run for president as an independent. But the good news about that is that Bernie's movable. When he was giving that rally and the Black Lives Matter protesters took over his rally, he didn't stop them. He let them talk. He listened to them. Then he hired one of them, and now that person is part of his campaign, and their ideas and needs are part of his platform. He listens, he can change, and he knows good and well the people who are funding his campaign are people like you and me. I've paid him my $27, and he owes me $27 worth of eartime. And if he listens to me, I will tell him, run as an independent, Bernie. We got your back. Do it. Do it whether the Republicans split or not. But do it. So hopefully he's movable, and hopefully he does that. Now, there's the idea that the Republicans don't split. Okay, say they get Trump and it's Trump versus Hillary. That will be a race where Trump wins. We will have a Republican president, and that's whether Bernie splits him or not. And the reason for that is because Hillary is about to be under indictment. She is already under investigation. She is not as popular as people want to believe when it comes to winning against the Republicans in the fall, because half of us that are being in the political process right now will not vote for her. I mean, there's a possibility Bernie wins because we write his name in, whether he wants to run as it or not. There's a possibility that could happen. That's a very small possibility, but that is still there. She cannot count on our votes. I am not voting for Hillary ever. And if Trump wins, because I wouldn't vote for Hillary, I wouldn't let her extort my vote, then I hold the DNC responsible for that, because they did not do enough to win my vote. And what they could have done to win my vote is to nominate Bernie. That's what would have made them win over the Republicans, and that's the choice they should have made. And if they don't do that and the Republicans win, it is not on me, it's on them. But if Trump wins the presidency, don't be afraid. He's a joke. The Republicans and the Democrats in the House and Senate will not work with him. The only thing he'll be able to do is 4 years worth of executive orders that will be immediately undone when he gets out of office. Will become quite unpopular throughout the world. Hopefully he won't start any wars, but I don't think he will, because that's really not his style. What he's going to focus on is that fucking wall. And that's not going to happen either, for two reasons. First of all, Mexico's not paying for it. We're not paying for it. Who's going to pay for it? It's not going to get paid for. But even if somebody did pay for it, you can't physically build a wall over the fucking mountains down there. It's going to be so crazy hard to do. It's going to be an engineering nightmare. And why would we waste our money building this stupid wall that we don't want and that we don't need when we have roads and bridges crumbling? That's just, no one's going to let him do that. So he's going to have a 4-year lame duck presidency, and then we're going to have Elizabeth Warren in the House in 4 years. So I'm not really even that worried about Trump. Oh, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. No sound. Can you hear me? Shake your head. Yeah, okay. Well, I can't hear you, so. Hopefully, though, that rant made sense. Wonder why I can't hear you. Did you mute it so that I could talk without having noise? I still can't hear you, darling. No sound. No sound. I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. Everybody in California always looks so healthy and tan. Oh, I wish I could hear you. Let's get this issue resolved. I bet whatever you're saying is very flattering and very kind towards me, but I can't hear you at all. No sound. Are you talking? Oh, do you want me to look here? Okay, hold on. Okay, resend the link. Okay, go ahead.